Welcome to the GSMC Fitness Podcast, the show that helps you sort through all of the trends, new and old, of the fitness world. We'll talk about yoga, running, Zumba, weightlifting, and everything in between. Whether you've got your fitness routine down to a science or you're just starting out and looking for direction, you'll find educational and entertaining information on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
Hey guys, and welcome to GSMC Fitness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Cynthia, and happy Wednesday, everyone. I hope you all had a very fantastic Memorial Day weekend and were able to spend it safely and socially distanced, hopefully, but I don't know. I know a lot of places are opening up now. Phase 3 in California just started, so not really sure what's going on, but I'm here for the ride. So let's see what has been up since the last time I've talked to you guys. Well, my AC broke. My AC broke, and to make matters worse, our fridge and freezer stopped working. All of this, by the way, happened in a matter of 2 days. So in 48 hours, our freezer broke, our fridge broke, and our AC broke. All while this entire week is going to be over 100 degrees. So it has been insufferable, okay? I've been in a bad mood because I don't like the heat. I only like the heat if I'm by the pool or I'm by a body of water, but neither of those have happened for me. So I'm literally just like, oh my God, it's been bad. Like my Memorial Day, I literally didn't do anything besides lay on my tile floor and try to sleep off the heat for as long as I could. Of course, with like the fan blowing in my face and whatnot, but I would like lay on my back with the face blowing my face, but then like my entire lower back would get all sweaty. So then I'd get hot, like my hair was just like oily. I'm like, I've just been like trying to get past through this week. So it's been a little rough for us, okay? And especially here in the Sacramento area, if you're familiar with Sacramento heat, it's deadly, okay? It's deadly. And usually the heat in this area is like dry heat, like desert heat. But for some reason, it's been very humid, like Miami, Houston type heat, which we're not used to, okay? We're not used to that. So it's been rough, you guys. So it's like I can't even cool off because we don't even have cold water running in our house. All the ice that we buy keeps melting because our freezer is not working. So it's just, it's been a drag, needless to say. I mean, it's been rough, but hopefully the parts that we ordered to fix our AC will come in on Friday. So fingers crossed that by Friday everything works out and that we will not have any ongoing issues with our AC. I'm not sure about the fridge and the freezer. That's going to happen in a later time because I just can't think of anything. So are any of you guys the same way? Like when you're extremely hot, you're just like in the worst mood. You don't want to talk to anybody. You like don't even have an appetite. I swear I haven't even been eating because like I have no appetite because I open my fridge and it's like the same temperature as out, like the air. So it's gross. So yeah, I know this is a fitness podcast. You guys didn't hop on today to listen to me complain about the heat and everything, but I just have to get it out there because it's unbearable, but hopefully everything will work out soon. As you are able to tell by the title, warm up, cool down. Do any of you guys have an idea of what I'm going to be discussing today? Yes, no, maybe so. All right. You should have an idea. warm up, cool down. I mean, these are two essential components when it comes to your training routine, but I believe that most people actually deny their warm up and their cool down, and they're just eager to hop right into their training session or into their workout. So you might be one of those people who are super eager to leap into your exercise routine and get on with the day. But I highly suggest don't just dive in. Starting a workout with cold muscles can lead to injury, and it's important to start each workout with a warm-up and end with the cool down. And that goes true for whether you're a beginner, you're seasoned pros, and everyone in between. Like, your warm-up and cool down is so important and beneficial to your health and making sure that we prevent injuries and that you come back stronger than ever into your next session. A lot of times I think that people end up injuring themselves because they don't properly cool down after their session and they don't properly warm up before their session, you know. Nowadays, we're so like on a time crunch all the time, and we're just trying to be in and out, like get in, get out, get the workout done. But it's like we have to make sure that we train smart and effectively. So I'm gonna be honest. When I started working out, I sometimes would do a warm up. I sometimes would do a cool down. But now that I am, I'm a certified personal trainer, and I have been doing this now for a couple of years and have gained the knowledge and have talked to other experts within the industry. I have learned that those warm-ups, cool-downs that I used to do were completely pointless because they didn't benefit me in any way. I thought that if I would just like stretch, the typical like stretch before working out and then sometimes stretch afterwards, I thought that was enough. But that clearly is not clearly. It's actually not clearly because a lot of people don't know this. That's what I'm talking about on the podcast. But that wasn't right. Like, there's more to your warm up and cool down. You have to strategically plan out your sessions to make sure that you are reaping the benefits and you're making every minute count. That's why I suggest that you work with a trainer, a fitness professional, especially if you are new, just to make sure you kind of like learn the ropes and make sure you're doing things correctly, and then eventually you can ditch them because that's what everybody does to us trainers. Anyway, the warm-up. Why is it important? What is so important about the warm-up? Warming up pumps nutrient-rich, oxygenated blood to your muscles as it speeds up your heart rate and breathing. A good warm-up should last anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes and work all major muscle groups, or if you're doing like a leg day, lower body day, then it should work all of your lower body muscles. For best results, start slowly, then pick up the pace. Many warm-up routines focus on cardio and range of motion exercises such as jumping jacks and lunges just to like get the heart pumping. If you prefer, you can do a simpler warm-up by walking in place while gently swinging your arms or even dancing to a few songs. It doesn't always need to be cardio focused when it comes to your warm-up. Like, I'll give you guys a prime example of my warm-up. For my lower body days, I typically will do some dynamic warm-ups, dynamic stretches, which I'll get into what exactly dynamic stretching is in the next segment. So I'll start off with dynamic warm-up for about 5 minutes. Then I'll get into some glute activation exercises, and that will take about another 5-ish minutes. So my warm-up right there is already a total of 10 minutes, and then I'll get straight into my heavy lifts. So it really doesn't take long. I think your warm-up is one of the most important aspects in your training regimen. You're literally preparing your body for all of those heavy loads and for the intensity that's about to endure. And if you just go straight into a barbell back squat and start squatting as heavy as you can see maybe how that may not be the safest choice for you to do, and to just like automatically hop into some heavy lifting without properly warming up your body. So do not deny the warm-up phase of your workout routine. It is super vital, again, to make sure that you just properly warm up your body, kind of wake her up, and also injury prevention. I mean, I know a lot of us don't like to be hurt, especially during this pandemic. If we've learned anything, is that our health should be our top priority. So let's do everything that we can to, make sure that we don't hurt ourselves in the gym. And that way we can come back each time better and stronger than ever. So I'm going to cut into a very brief break right now. When we come back, we're going to get into dynamic stretches.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast, dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hey guys, and welcome to GSMC Fitness Podcast. So in the previous segment, we started to dive into the warm-up phase of our training routines and why it's so important. So again, it pumps nutrient-rich, oxygenated blood to your muscles as it speeds up your heart rate and breathing. And I want to talk now about dynamic stretches, dynamic warm-ups. These actually tend to be my go-to for my warm-up. Like I said, some people like to do very cardio focus for their warm-up. So they'll go on the treadmill, go on the Stairmaster or whatever. I like to just do dynamic stretches because they're quick, easy, and these are just like everybody can do them. So what is dynamic stretching? Dynamic stretches are active movements where joints and muscles go through a full range of motion, and they can be used to warm up your body before exercising. Dynamic stretches can be functional and mimic the movement of the activity or sport you're about to perform. For example, a swimmer may circle their arms before getting into the water. That's a form or an example of dynamic stretches. Dynamic stretches can also be a series of movements to get the body moving before any type of exercise. Some examples include trunk twists, walking lunges, or leg swings against the wall. leg swings are actually one of my favorite dynamic warm-ups. I do these for my lower body days, sometimes my upper body, but for sure my lower body days. It's great. Those leg swings are great for opening up my hips, because sometimes I realize I tend to be a little bit tight in my hips after I sit for long periods of time. So those leg swings are great for like stretching that area out, that whole entire like hip joint. So again, in a nutshell, dynamic stretching is you're basically taking your joints and muscles through a full range of motion, through like an active movement. So that can be even like a very low squat to a hamstring stretch and like repeating that same movement. So what is the difference between dynamic versus static stretching? Dynamic stretches are different than static stretching. Dynamic stretches are meant to get the body moving. The stretches aren't held for any length of time. Dynamic stretches include dynamic movement such as lunges with a torso twist. So you're basically warming up your entire body. Static stretching, on the other hand, this is what most of you are familiar with. This is what I grew up being taught. All of my coaches when I played sports really emphasize static stretching, which is where muscles are extended and held for a period of time. Some examples of static stretches include a tricep stretch or the butterfly stretch. So you're basically like just holding, like you're holding that stretch for 30 seconds. That could also mean like if you're trying to get your splits, you're holding that split stretch for like 30 seconds. So static stretching we're all very familiar with, and before I got educated and certified, I thought static stretching was enough. Like I did static stretching as my warm-up sometimes and then get straight into my workout. And that really didn't do anything for me, because static stretching, what it does, it actually relaxes your muscle. So that's why it's recommended that if you do utilize static stretching, to use static stretching in your cool down and dynamic stretching in your warm up, because the dynamic stretches are actually going to get the body moving and just get your heart rate up, whereas static stretching is going to slow it down and relax your muscles. And you're not really trying to relax your muscles before a heavy lift, right? Like that doesn't make sense. Why are you going to put your muscles at ease and at rest right before going into a heavy lift? Like we got to wake the muscles up, and that's what dynamic stretching is for. You can think of static stretching if you like get confused of which is what. Static stretching is typically used in yoga. So I want you guys to think static stretching yoga, like you're holding those yoga poses, right? Like yoga is meant to be very, depending what type of yoga you do, like therapeutic and relaxing, and it's supposed to like stretch your muscles and put them at ease. So that's perfect if you want to do as a cool down. As a cool down, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to relax your muscles. In the warm up, you're not trying to do that. So again, I'm going to emphasize dynamic stretches, dynamic warm-ups in the beginning of your workout as your warm-up, and static stretching at the end of your workout as a cool down. So with that being said, when do you use dynamic stretching? Well, I just said it. Dynamic stretching can be used before the start of any exercise routine. It may help warm up your body or get your muscles moving and ready to work. Some examples that may benefit from dynamic stretches include, before sport or an athletic game, like a basketball game. Show that dynamic stretches may be beneficial for athletes who will be running or jumping, including basketball players, soccer players, sprinters, etc. And then before like your weightlifting session, dynamic stretching may help with leg extension power and improve performance compared to static stretching or no stretching. Before cardiovascular exercise, whether you'll be running in boot camp or swimming, dynamic exercises can get your muscles warmed up and ready, which may improve performance and reduce risk for injury. Dynamic stretches are an excellent way to warm up before exercising. It's a sample dynamic stretching routine may involve the following moves. So these dynamic stretches I personally use into my fitness routine. First one being hip circles. So you stand on one leg, holding onto a countertop or a wall for support. You gently swing your other leg in small circles out to the side, and you perform 20 circles, then switch legs. And eventually, you're working up to larger circles as you become more flexible. This is great for warming up your hip, your entire hip complex. And then another favorite of mine is a lunge with a twist. So you basically just lunge forward with your right leg, keeping your knee directly over your ankle and not extending it farther than your ankle. Reach overhead with your left arm and bend your torso toward the right side. Bring your right leg back to return to an upright standing position. Lunge forward with your left leg, and then you would repeat that 5 times on each leg. And I hope as I'm saying this, you guys are maybe trying them out at your house. I don't know. I think that would be funny. So as I'm explaining, because I'm explaining the dynamic stretches and like what their names are and everything. So pay attention. Next are arm circles. So I just touched on this. This is a great exercise for swimmers. And I love to do arm circles for my upper body days to wake up my upper body, relax my neck, open up my shoulders. So for arm circles, you stand with feet shoulder width apart and hold arms out to the side at shoulder height. You circle around your arms slowly, starting with small circles, working up to large circles, and you perform 20 of those, 20 reps. After you perform the 20 reps, you reverse direction of the circles and perform 20 more. And that is what arm circles are. Now, dynamic stretches, I'd say these are for runners, or they can be highly beneficial for runners. You don't need to be a runner to do these exercises. I'm not a runner and I do these, but I think these would be very helpful for anybody who is a runner. So runners can benefit from dynamic stretches as a warm-up. Some recommended stretches for runners are large arm circles. So you stand upright with your arms extended out to your side and you start to make large circles, perform 5 to 10 reps with your arms swinging forward, and then you do the same thing with your arms swinging backward. I like to do 10 reps back, 10 reps forward. And then the leg pendulum. This one is very similar to like the hip circles I mentioned already. So the leg pendulum, you start to swing one leg back and forth while balancing on the other. And then you can hold on to a wall if needed. You probably will, because this exercise or this warm-up does challenge your stability a little bit, which is good, because then that forces you to contract your core muscles and make sure that your core muscles are keeping you stable. So a lot of mind muscle connection is involved in dynamic stretches, which I really like, because mind to muscle connection is very important when it comes to training. So leg pendulum, again, you can hold on to something and you swing your leg back and forth 5 to 10 times. Again, I would do 10 times. And then you bring that leg down and repeat with the other leg, swing it again about 10 times. You can face the wall and swing your legs from side to side if desired. I do side to side as well. I really take my time in my lower body warm-ups, my lower body dynamic warm-ups, just because when I was in the gym, I was lifting very heavy, I was doing barbell squats, deadlifts, hip thrusts. So that's a lot of tension on my joints, specifically my ankles, my knees, and my hips, and my back. So I really dedicated my time to warming up properly, warming up my body, so that way I don't injure myself, because I do not want to get hurt. I'm the biggest baby when it comes to my health, and if I have a cold or anything hurts, I'm a pain in the butt. So I'm going to do anything I can in my power to make sure I don't get hurt and just prevent any future discomfort. So I'm going to come to a very brief break right now. When we come back, more on dynamic stretches.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to GSMC Fitness Podcast. So I'm going to quickly wrap up the dynamic stretches, and then we'll move on to the cool down and why it's important after exercise. So we just got done talking about, like large arm circles, leg pendulum. The next dynamic stretch warm up that I think will be great for runners is the jog to quad stretch. So you start by jogging in place for 2 to 3 seconds. Reach behind one leg to grab hold of one foot to stretch out the quad. You hold that quad for 2 to 3 seconds and then start to jog in again for another 2 to 3 seconds and then repeat the stretch with the other leg. And you repeat that whole round 5 to 10 times. I would do 10 times. I feel like 5 is a little too little. So while dynamic stretching is important for warming up, it isn't necessary to perform dynamic stretches as a cool down. Dynamic stretches bring up your core temperature, and during the cool down, the goal is to lower your temperature, which is why, static stretches are appropriate for the cool down and dynamic stretches are appropriate for the warm up because we're trying to raise your temperature, and cool down, we're trying to lower it. So the next time you exercise or play sports, try adding dynamic stretches to your warm-up. You may find your body feels more energized, stretched out, and ready to power through your workout. just remember always to check with your doctor before starting a new exercise routine. Always, All right. Moving into the cool down. We're done talking about the warm up and why it's important and all of that stuff. Let's get into the cool down. I don't have time to cool down, or I'll stretch later. These are common phrases, and they're like nails on a chalkboard to personal trainers and group fitness instructors around the country, yet are heard on a regular basis. With the perception of time being the most important determinant for an individual to remain diligent in their exercise routine, the cool down is usually the first thing to go when time is of the essence. Although it may be easy to simply jump from the treadmill straight into the shower or from the squat rack to the car, there are 5 very important reasons to think carefully before you pull the plug on your workout. And the first one is blood pooling. So during exercise, the heart is pumping at an accelerated rate, and the oxygenated blood that we've talked about earlier today has to be pumped from your heart and make it all the way through your lower extremities before working its way back to the heart against gravity to be re-oxygenated again. When the body goes from moving quickly or performing a lot of work during your last set to working less and moving slowly, the squeezing action provided by the working muscles is greatly diminished. So when exercise is stopped abruptly, this can cause the blood to pool in the lower extremities and slow its return back to the heart and subsequently to the brain. Another factor that adds to this dilemma is the one-way valves that are present within our vascular system. Veins, which are generally responsible for returning deoxygenated blood back to the heart and lungs, come equipped with one-way valves spaced throughout to prevent backflow. When the movement of blood slows with the vascular system, there is less pressure available to move the blood through these doorways, which causes the blood to become somewhat trapped between these valves. All of this can lead to lightheadedness, dizziness, and fainting, which we don't want that, right? In fact, many fitness facility accidents occur in the locker rooms because of this blood pooling effect, especially with the elderly or those prone to cardiovascular issues. So when you feel like jumping from your last sprint straight back into your street clothes, remember to take an extra few minutes to slow your roll, make sure your heart rate comes down slowly, and allow your body to become accustomed to the now diminished level of work. It literally might save you a trip to the emergency room. So please do not deny your cool down. Again, it doesn't need to take more than 5 minutes, some quick static stretching just to, again, lower your body temperature, lower your heart rate, and then you're on your way out the door. I know we can all dedicate an extra 5 minutes. Second reason why you don't want to skip out on your cool down is for delayed onset muscle soreness, also known as DOMS. DOMS occurs 24 to 48 hours after exercise due to micro tears in the muscle fibers. This is a normal part of exercise, and some soreness is to be expected, especially with resistance training or a new form of exercise. However, considerable amounts of DOMS is not comfortable and can be rather debilitating when trying to stay on a consistent exercise schedule. DOMS that hang around for more than 2 to 3 days may also be a sign of overtraining or illness or a precursor to injury. Cooling down after your workout is a great way to help minimize the DOMS effect. A recent study conducted at California State University looked at the effect of recovery interventions of moderate and low intensity cycling as well as seated rest after strength training. What they found was that when completed after the strength training bout, the moderate intensity cycling cool down showed a significant decrease in DOMS due to increased blood flow to the exercise muscles. So when your last reps are in the books, don't forget to put your weights away and take a short spin on the closest bike, rear quads. I promise you, your quads will thank you in 24 to 48 hours. And I mean, who wants to be sore for that long? 2 to 3 days? Like, that definitely just messes up your exercise routine. And especially if you're trying to grow your muscles. part of growing your muscles is frequently training them. Frequency is an important aspect to hypertrophy, muscle growth. So if you're not frequently training that specific muscle group that you're trying to grow, then it's not going to grow because you're not training it frequently enough because you're too sore. And if you do train while you're sore, then it's defeating the purpose and you're really not doing anything good for your body because your micro tears in the muscle fibers are still torn. They haven't been repaired. So when they're not properly repaired, it's like you're just going backwards again. You're taking it a few steps backwards still. So definitely listen to your body. Do not overtrain, especially if you're sore. And how can you minimize the soreness? Well, by not cutting out the cool down or the warm up in your training. Next reason why you shouldn't cut out your cool down is for stress relief. Exercise is a great way to step away from the day's stresses and take care of yourself. Not only are you taking care of your body when you exercise, but you're also taking care of your mind by helping to release the feel-good hormones, dopamine and serotonin, also known as endorphins, right? We know that when we work out, we release endorphins, which is why a lot of times we feel very good after a training session. The cool down is an important part of this process when exercise is slowed and the body's allowed to gradually come back to a resting balanced state, also known as homeostasis. You'll also be able to take full advantage of the relaxed and euphoric effect that these neurochemicals have on your body. Taking a few moments to stretch, breathe, and reflect on your awesome workout will not only help you be on point when you enter back into your busy life, it will also leave you feeling refreshed and possibly ward of future diseases. And you guys, I'm going to cut to a very brief break right now. When we come back, more on why you shouldn't cut out your cool down routine from your training regimen.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to GSMC Fitness Podcast. So we started to dive into why the cool down is imperative when it comes to training, and we're going to continue along with that conversation now. The fourth reason why you shouldn't cut out your cool down from your workout routine is for injury prevention. This is probably one of the most important reasons why you shouldn't cut it out. When you are finished with all your sets and reps or your final interval, your muscles are very warm and pliable. Think of silly putty that you've been played with for a while, okay? That's literally how your muscles are. Making static stretching a great addition to the cool down to improve overall flexibility. When the muscles are stretched on a consistent basis, they become lengthened and over time will allow you to have more range of motion, warding off injuries that tend to plague the inflexible. This is also true for those who may not be of a competitive nature. Lower back injuries are among the most common reasons for days missed at work and can be caused from tight hamstrings or tight hip flexors, which is why it is so important to give these areas some love after your workout. I would say 2 sets of 30-second static stretches will not only make your legs and back feel great, but you will also be more likely to catch yourself in a slippery situation and prevent a future injury. This is how I like to cool down as well. I just do static stretching, and I don't really count when I do static stretching. I kind of just hold the position until it I feel like stretched enough, The fifth and final reason why you shouldn't skip out on your cool down is for recovery purposes. After an intense bout of exercise, there is accumulation of lactic acid within the system. It takes time for this byproduct of exercise to be buffered out, so 10 minutes of light exercise along with stretching is a great way to begin clearing the lactic acid from the body. It also helps to ensure that your body will be ready for its next physical test. With all this talk about a cool down, it is important to know what to include during this essential part of your workout routine. A cool down should fill the last 5 to 15 minutes of your workout and include static holds, stretches of the muscle groups you just worked on. For example, if you did squats and push-ups, you'll want to stretch out your glutes, quads, chest, and triceps. You should also include a light form of cardiovascular exercise. If you just finished a spin class or a run, try walking for 5 to 10 minutes and then do your stretches. Your cool down might also include the use of a foam roller to help alleviate those tender points along the muscles. So while it might be just as easy to skip out early, remember that a 10-minute cool down can be the difference between you and your fitness goals. So I too sometimes like to do, I like to foam roll. I actually like to foam roll before and after my workout. So I'll foam roll for my cool down and my warm up. I like to use the foam roller after cool down, and then I'll use like the massage gun. I'm sure many of you have seen them nowadays. They're very, very popular. They're like, there's a Hypervolt. Mine's from the brand called Joku, I think, Jawku, Joku. And I like to use that prior to my workout session. So that's basically going to wrap up today's episode here at the GSMC Fitness Podcast. I hope you guys liked what I had to discuss on today's episode. If you liked what I had to talk about warm-ups and cool-downs, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you guys at the next one.
You've been listening to the GSMC Fitness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Google Play, and any app where you listen to podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, we cover it all. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook and listen to these podcasts on YouTube. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's podcast.